In this video, I'll be ranking the Suikoden 2 characters. Similar to the Suikoden 1 character ranking list, it's going to be a personal favourites ranking. So I'll be judging the characters based on how much I personally like the character, and that's going to be determined by a mixture of how good they are in combat, how fun they are in combat, their design, their story, and their backstory. So if they appeared in both Suikoden 1 and 2, or any Suikoden 1 and 2 related books, I'll be factoring that into my decision. So returning characters from Suikoden 1 may be ranked very differently in this video than they were in the Suikoden 1 video. I'll also be factoring in character appearances from the two Suikoden games, as both of those games are closely connected to Suikoden 2. I don't think there's going to be as many controversial choices in this video compared to the Suikoden 1 video, and I definitely think there's going to be more characters rated in the higher tiers than the lower tiers. I think I'll start off by going through the returning Suikoden 1 characters. That should get a chunk of the characters out of the way. If I don't have much to say about them, it's because nothing much has changed from my Suikoden 1 thoughts. So just go watch that. So let's start with... We'll start with someone I rated quite controversially in the first ranking list. Necklord. I hated him in the first game. In the Suikoden 1 ranking video, I rated him in the garbage tier because I genuinely believe that Suikoden 1 Necklord is a garbage character. But Suikoden 2 Necklord is a whole different story. He's got a bigger role to play in the story, we see a lot of his personality, we get to find out a lot more about his backstory, and his battle theme is an absolute banger. I'm going to put Necklord in the A tier. So that is a significant jump for Necklord, going from the garbage tier in Suikoden 1 to the A tier in Suikoden 2. So next I'll do... There was another controversial pick I had in the Suikoden 1 video. I ranked Flick in the C tier in the Suikoden 1 video, but Suikoden 2 Flick is going in the S tier. Between the two games, he's had some amazing character development and personal growth. They took his character development from the second half of Suikoden 1, and they matured him even further. I find him to be far more likable in Suikoden 2, and he's one of the best characters in the game. So Suikoden 2 Flick is S tier. And of course, if we're doing Flick, we gotta do Victor. They're a package deal. I ranked him in the S tier in the Suikoden 1 video, and he is of course staying in the S tier now. Everything that was great about his character in the first game is even better in the second game. He's as lovable as ever. He is a real bro. Next, I will do Gremio. You can stay in the B tier. I don't have much to say about him. MacDull, if I'm doing Gremio, I'll do MacDull. And I'm going to keep MacDull in the S tier. I loved his scene in Banar Village where he pretends his rune is outright evil so he doesn't have to go and rescue a kid. I thought that was pretty funny. But aside from that, don't have anything new to say about MacDull. He's as awesome as ever. Leknot, we will keep her in the A tier. Not much else to say about her during this game. And if we're doing Leknot, we'll do Luke, as he is her apprentice. Luke was another controversial pick from the Suikoden 1 video. I believe I ranked him in the C tier, but he's had some great growth. Well, I wouldn't say great growth. He's had some growth between the two games, and he's definitely matured. Though he still has that air of jerk to him. He's far more likable in Suikoden 2, and he does of course remain a beast in combat, so I'm going to put him in the A tier. Not quite S tier because he's still a bit of a dick, so he's staying in A tier. Well, not staying in A tier, he's going into A tier, so he jumps 2 places. Next, another controversial pick. would be Lorelei. So in the Suikoden 1 video, I ranked Lorelei in the S tier, which seemed to confuse a few people. I don't know what it is about Lorelei. I just love her character. I can't quite explain why, to be honest. There's nothing about her that really stands her out from anyone else. I think it's just a case of, have you ever just been fond of a character? Like, you see the character, you instantly love them, you're drawn to the character, but you can't actually pinpoint a specific reason as to why you like them. That's what it is with Lorelei for me. Since my very first playthrough of Suikoden 1, I loved her character, and I still love her character now. She's staying in the S tier. Another Suikoden 1 character, Templeton, you can stay in the B tier. Not much else to say about him here. I'll go Sheena next. So if I remember, in the Suikoden 1 video, I ranked Sheena in the D tier because I thought he was incredibly annoying in Suikoden 1. Though I do like him a lot more now. Between the two games, I like him a lot more. He hasn't matured at all, but he's got some funny moments and he gets to show off some of his personality. Plus, he has a somewhat big role to play in Suikoden Volume 2, I believe Chapter 3, along with Humphrey, Futch, and Ulan. He's great in combat. I'm going to put him in the B tier. The only thing holding him back from A tier is that the whole womanizing thing he has going on gets very tiring after a while. So next we will do Tengar and Hicks. I can't remember where I ranked them in the Suikoden 1 video. I think I put Tengar in A and Hicks in B. But this time I think I'm going to put Hicks in A and Tengar in S. Tengar is getting ranked higher because she's way better in combat than he is. She's got a lot more versatility. I loved their recruitment quest in Suikoden 2. I know it was just a fetch quest, but the dialogue options if you don't play along and you keep calling out what's happening, I thought was pretty funny. And Hicks being completely oblivious to everything that was happening and then dragging you along to help him against your will. I thought the whole quest was pretty funny. Both characters are vastly improved over Suikoden 1, so I'll give each of them a bump up one ranking. Next, I will do Vincent. Not much else to say about Vincent. He can stay in the A tier, sorry. I think it was A tier I put him in Suikoden 1. Next up, actually, I'm noticing everyone so far has either stayed where they were in the Suikoden 1 video or they've been ranked much higher than where they were in the Suikoden 1 video, so I think we'll go the opposite direction now. We'll rank some in the lower tiers, and this might be a tad controversial. I don't know, it might be, maybe it won't be, but Taiho and Yamko. I believe I ranked both of them in the B tier in Suikoden 1, but these two are an interesting case. They've actually gone in the opposite direction, unlike almost everyone else. I don't like either of them as much in Suikoden 2 as I did in Suikoden 1. Their dialogue isn't as fun. They have much smaller roles to play. Taiho is worse in combat compared to the first game. Yamko isn't even a combat character, but instead has some fishing minigame, and I absolutely hate fishing minigames. Outside of that one scene in Coronet, where you convince them to help you cross the lake, they don't really have much to do in the game, and they don't really contribute much of anything. So both of those characters have taken big step backwards, and I'm going to drop Taiho from a B tier to the D tier. And Yamko is going into the... Where's Yamko? Yamko, there you are. Yamko is going into the E tier. So a big drop for Yamko. And partially that's because of my hatred of fishing minigames. Stallion, I think I'll keep him in the B tier. Nothing new to say. He's still a great character. Who else do we got? Returning characters. Humphrey, I will keep him in the S tier. How can you not love Humphrey? And from doing Humphrey, we got to do Futch. Where do I put Futch? He's matured a lot since the first game, and he's had some great growth. I'll put A tier. I'll put Futch in the A tier. I'll give him a bump there. I would recommend playing, or at least watching, Suikoden Volume 2, Chapter 3, as it heavily revolves around Humphrey and Futch, so you get a nice chunk of story about the two of them. And again, I've kind of gone back to the top of the list here, so let's go back towards the bottom of the list. Another controversial pick, Clive. I ranked him in the E tier during the Suikoden 1 video, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have thought that was a very controversial pick, as I know he's quite a popular character. But even with his extra story in Suikoden 2, with his whole side quest involving Elsa, I still don't care for him all that much. But he did get a little extra story, so Clive is going in the D tier. He gets a small bump, but it's still a controversial pick. Next, another returning character would be, let's see, Apple. We'll go with Apple. If I remember, she was in the D tier in Suikoden 1, as I didn't really care for her character at all in Suikoden 1. But Suikoden 2 Apple is going in the A tier. She's a fantastic character in Suikoden 2. She plays a big role. She's got some great moments in the story. She's matured a lot. She gets a big jump from the D tier to the A tier. Next up, another returning character. I'll go with Kasumi. I feel more or less the same about her in this game as I did in the first game. She's kind of useless in war battles, let's be honest. Sure, she lets you recruit the ninjas earlier. As I said in the Suikoden 1 video, I don't particularly care for the ninjas, so Kasumi will stay in the B tier. And since Kasumi and Valeria are a choice in Suikoden 2, I am going to rank Valeria next. She's just as much of a badass in the second game as she was in the first game. She's going back into the S tier. An extra cavalry unit in war is always a welcome addition, and she is, of course, still a stone cold fox. Valeria stays in the S tier. Next, I suppose I may as well get the higher ranked ones out of the way. So Maximilian, I ranked him S in Suikoden 1. I still love his character. He's staying in the S tier here. Is there anyone else I would have put in the S tier? From Suikoden 1? No, I think that covers the S tiers from Suikoden 1. Does it? I think it does. So next we'll go Leon. I really hated him in Suikoden 1. I thought he was a dick. I despised his character. Didn't like him, but I say I despise his character. I mean, I despise his personality, but I like his character. He stays in the S tier because despite my personal dislike of Leon as a person, he's an incredible strategist and a great character. And I think the only thing that held him back from victory was Joey. So Leon stays in the S tier. Now I think I'll do two more controversial picks. So if you remember, I think I ranked Peshmerga in the D tier in Suikoden 1. And once again, he is going back into the D tier. He's amazing in combat. But between Suikoden 1 and 2, he received absolutely no character development, and he still has zero personality outside of "I'm hunting Uber." I just don't find him to be an interesting character. I don't understand the appeal he has on so many people. And since I'm ranking Peshmerga, Uber comes along with him. I ranked him in the C tier in the Suikoden 1 video, but this time I'm going to put him up into the B tier, because unlike Peshmerga, he's actually got some story going on for him. He's got some moments and some dialogue in the game. Now, I say some, it's very little, but a little is better than nothing. As a character, he's a bit more fleshed out compared to Suikoden 1. And compared to Peshmerga, he's far more fleshed out, so he gets a little bump from C to B. Next. Who next? I'll go Meg. More or less the same as Suikoden 1. I do like her a little bit more. I think I ranked her in the C tier in Suikoden 1. Like I said, I like her a bit more. She's more fun in combat. She has slightly more story, but I don't think it's enough to really bump her from a C to a B. Actually, Meg was in Suikoden Volume 2 in the alternate route of Chapter 3. She was heavily featured in Vicky's chapter, and she was really entertaining in that chapter, and she went on a lot of wacky adventures with Vicky, Millie, Nash, and Gadget. I thought that was one of the most fun chapters in the Suikogaidens. You know what? I'm going to give her a bump up to B tier just for her appearance in Suikogaiden. Go watch Suikogaiden Volume 2, Chapter 3, Alternate Route, Vicky's chapter. It's a really funny chapter. So I'll bump Meg up to B. Jean, I think, was a controversial pick in Suikoden 1. I think I put her in the D tier, if I remember. I love her design in this game more. She's hot as hell, let's be honest. She's got a bit more story in this game compared to the first game. She's teaching at the New Leaf Academy in Green Hill, but if you've played or watched Suikogaiden Volume 1, in the final chapter, she does help out with the defense of the city against Highland, so she's got a bit more story. I'll put Suikoden 2 Jean in the C tier. Again, might be a bit controversial. I know a lot of people love her, but Jean in the first two games, well, really, she doesn't have much going on for her until at least Suikoden 4, so she stays in the middle of the pack. Next, I will go with Vicky. So I think I ranked her in the A tier in the Suikoden 1 video. I love her. I absolutely adore her. She kind of sucks in combat because she's got terrible affinity with all magic types, except I believe her blinking rune. But her rune is a lot of fun. As I said with Meg, the alternate route of Chapter 3 in Suikogaiden Volume 2 was absolutely hilarious. It's all about Vicky, accidentally teleporting the group through time, and the entire chapter is full of laughs. I ranked her in the A tier last time. I'm going to rank her in the S tier this time. I love Vicky. So let me just do a quick scan through the list here. I think that covers all of the recurring characters from Suikoden 1. I believe it does. I don't see anybody left on the list here. But just give me a moment to double check. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers everyone. So as you can see, most of the Suikoden 1 characters that have returned in Suikoden 2, they're ranked fairly highly. There's only a few of them ranked poorly. So the Suikoden 1 characters did receive some development, or a lot of development in between games. So let's move on now to the Suikoden 2 characters. Lebrant, straight away. I don't really care. He's the appraiser. I never really make use of him. Who else don't I care about? Gordon, I don't care about you. Sorry, not D tier. I'm going to put you in the E tier as well. I just, outside of the requirements to recruit him, I never use the trade shop, as I'm never really stuck for money in the game, and I never really felt the need to use the trade shop. So he's staying in the E tier just because I find him to be useless. The first garbage pick will be Taki, straight into garbage. Just like Onal from the first game, all she does is gossip, and to me that is garbage. Now I know what the purpose of the gossip is. It's to give you little hints about what you're supposed to do and things like that, but I think she's garbage. I don't care about her. Useless character. Next up, who will I do next? Gantetsu. He joins a little late for my liking. Could have used his help during the Tinto portion of the game when we were going to fight Necklord, as he does come with a resurrection rune. But he doesn't join until after Necklord is defeated, giving him no real usefulness in the game. Except maybe, I suppose, the Bone Dragon in Greenhill. His stat growth is garbage, kind of making him useless in combat. I'll put him in I'll put him in E tier. I'll put him in the E tier. I don't really care about Gantetsu. Not a good character. Let's fill out the bottom part a bit more. Jess. Garbage. I'm sorry, he's going straight into the garbage tier. I despise him. I hated him on my first playthrough, and I hate him just as much now. He was unlikable from the moment you meet him, right up until the moment he's recruited. I get it. He was madly in love with Annabelle. She got murdered. You were standing over her body. He blamed you. You know, he sunk into anger and depression over her death. But he's such an unlikable character. Even much later in the game in Tinto, he's a moron. His only saving grace, I think, is that after the game, he steps down from his role and leaves politics. Plus, his ill-thought-out plan of sending Ryo and Joey into the Highland camp is what led to the fall of Muse. Absolutely awful character. Now, to be fair, if I look at him objectively, he's probably a C tier character, but I just can't get over my personal dislike of everything about him. So he's going into the garbage tier. Now we have quite a lot of characters to get through, so let's see if we can get through any characters that are going to be grouped together. Like, I don't know, the squirrels. I love them all. I adore them all. They're the cutest little things. I love using them in, you know, Ryu's squad in the fight against Luca Blight or against the Beast Rune at the end of the game. Their Unite attack is absolutely adorable. I often try to, when I'm fighting Luca or the Beast Rune, get the squirrels to use their Unite attack and fly them off the map. You know, just fly them off somewhere in the world, drop them off, and win the fight that way. I think it's funny. Maybe you don't. I love the squirrels. They're absolutely adorable. I am going to put Muku Muku in the S tier, and I'm going to put Maku Maku, Miku Miku, Meku Meku, and Moku Moku, if I got all of those names correct. I'm going to put all of them into the A tier. They don't have the same charm as Muku Muku. You know, you got him a bit earlier. I think he learned martial arts by watching you growing up, watching you training with Genkaku. He's adorable. Next, I suppose, since we're doing groups, well, I guess the Krakens, they're kind of a package deal as well. The Krakens, Abbas Boa, I think, is easily the best of the three. They're interesting from a combat perspective. That's about it, really. They've got a unique rune. I think it's called the Blue Drop rune. Unfortunately, only Aba's Boa is actually good in combat. Relodia and Chuchara, let's be honest, they suck. Relodia and Chuchara also don't count towards the 108 Stars of Destiny, so if you use your Listening Crystal to recruit Relodia, you can't get the best ending, and because you recruited them, you can't get Siegfried, you can't save Nanami. It's a bit sucky, to be honest. I'm not sure why Relodia doesn't count towards the 108 Stars of Destiny, but I'm going to put Aba's Boa in the C tier. I'm going to put Relodia in the D tier, and I'm going to put Chuchara in the E tier. So, like I said, if you recruit Relodia, you can't get all 108 stars, and because of that, you can't save Nanami and you can't get the best ending. So, I'll be honest, I generally don't recruit the Krakens because of that. And I don't like to recruit Aba's Boa without getting his family. It doesn't feel complete. So, not really a package deal, but if I'm doing all of the animals here, I may as well do Siegfried and Feather. I'm going to put Siegfried in the E tier. I just don't really care about him. Feather, I'm going to put Feather in the... Sorry, if you hear an explosion or something outside, people are annoyingly setting off fireworks. There is absolutely no occasion to be setting off fireworks. I don't know why they're doing it, but they're doing it. Feather. I like him more than Siegfried. He had an interesting recruitment scene with Ida. So I'm going to put Feather in C tier. Now, I know I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. I said I was going to do groups and kind of package deals, I suppose. But if I'm doing Feather, I gotta rank Ida. I absolutely love Ida. I love her character. She's one of my favorites in the entire series. She's got a heart of gold. She has a real love for, nature and animals. She protects the forest and all of the animals from poachers. What is not to love about her? She's my kind of gal. I have a soft spot for archers in Suikoden, and she is, of course, a hot redhead. So she is going into the S tier, and the allegations grow stronger. So let's get back to the package deals, shall we? Let's try and get more groups of characters out of the way. Now, they're not technically a group, I suppose, but Tenko and Connolly, I'm going to rank them together. Same as Window and Melody from Suikoden 1. I don't really make use of them, but I appreciate what they add. I think I'll put them in the C tier the same way I did for Melody and Window in Suikoden 1. Another package deal, I suppose, Sasuke and Mondo. Again, just like with the Suikoden 1 characters, the ninjas here, they don't really do anything for me. I like Mondo more than I like Sasuke. I found Sasuke to be a little annoying. I know he's just a kid and he has a crush on Kasumi, but he's still annoying. Mondo, on the other hand, he shows some personality. He has a bit of fun teasing Sasuke about Kasumi. I think I'll put Sasuke in the E tier, and I'm going to put Mondo in the C tier. Another package deal would be Alberto, Annalie, and Pico. Whatever. They're fine. No real love or dislike of them, but I'm going to put them in the D tier. I'm sorry, they're just whatever. Where is Pico? Where is Pico? Where are you? There you are. I'll put you in the D tier as well. It's kind of balancing out now. I don't think there's going to be anyone else in the garbage tier. I don't see anyone else on the list that I outright hate or outright dislike so much that they'll go into the garbage tier. So I think the garbage tier is probably more or less done from this point onwards. And I think I'm struggling even to see many characters that are going to be ranked lower than the C tier. And I don't even think there's many controversial picks left. I think there's a couple of controversial picks left, but not many. So let's try and zip through a few quick ones. Amada, I'm going to put you in C tier. I like him. He's alright. He's nothing special. Adlai is another one. I'm going to put him in the B tier. Quick and easy. What can I say? The elevators are always a plus. Though I think it's funny about Adlai that he's probably the worst inventor in the entire series, but in a funny way, because all of his inventions are complete failures. And if anybody has played Suikoden Volume 1, I believe it's in the alternate route of Chapter 3 in Suikoden Volume 1, you actually see Adlai training in the Green Hill Forest, but he himself is not training. He's actually training 4 buff naked dudes called elevator barbarians who are pulling a big boulder up with a rope. And it turns out his elevator is actually powered by those 4 naked dudes who are in a room above the elevator who are just pulling on the rope to bring the elevator up and down. So I think Adlai is pretty funny. Who else? We'll go Richmond. I'll put Richmond in the B tier. He's a great character. I love his investigations. He helps give us a lot more lore about the cast and the world. Plus, he really helps out with recruiting Shu. Who next? I think I'll go Tasai next, the blacksmith. I have a lot to say about Tasai, actually. I said I was going to do some quick ones, and here I am doing a long one. He joins far too late into the game for my liking. I don't know why the blacksmith is one of the last 8 recruits in the game. As soon as we recruit him, we're able to get the silver hammer pretty much immediately. But we get the iron and copper hammers far earlier into the game. It doesn't make sense to me. I suspect at some point during development, some of the recruitable characters got shuffled around and he got pushed to the back and overlooked, and they didn't really readjust the hammers, I suppose. I'm going on a bit of a rant and getting off topic, but you know, what's there to say? He's the blacksmith. He does his job. He has a funny scene with Victor and the Star Dragon sword, so he's going in the C tier. Tetsu, I'll put him in the C tier. He's just the bat dude. He gets us nice and toasty. Are there any more groups of characters I can kind of get out of the way here? So I think we're about halfway through the list. So I'll do Kulgan and Seed. I think you all know where Kulgan is going, pretty obvious. I love both of their characters and their stories. They were both in Suikoden Volume 1 and they had a lot of screen time actually, and it really helped flesh out their characters. I'm going to put Kulgan in the S tier and I'm going to put Seed in the A tier. I don't want to go into too much detail on their story in Suikoden Volume 1 because I don't want to spoil their scenes, but both of them are great characters. I do like Kulgan more as he's the more calm and composed of the two, similar to how I preferred Grenseal over Alan in Suikoden 1. But go watch or play Suikoden Volume 1 and check out their scenes. It gives a lot of development to their characters, gives a lot more background to their characters, and it's worth watching or playing. But next up, another package deal I think would be Ailey, Balgan, and Rina. What's not to love? You know, they're traveling performers who end up being your traveling buddies for certain portions of the game. They're all great characters, though I've always had a preference for Rina due to her ability as a mage. So I'm going to put Rina in the B tier. Balgan I'm going to put in the C tier. And Ailey I'm going to put in the C tier as well. Actually no, I'm not. I'm going to put them all in the B tier because They showed up in Suikoden Volume 1, I believe Chapter 1. No, Suikoden Volume 2, Chapter 1. Sorry. And they helped protect Millet Village from bandits who were pretending to be the Firebringer. So they got a bit more character development and story there. And seeing as I'm doing package deals and I'm talking about Millet Village, I am going to rank the Lamp Dragon bandits. Lowen, Gijimu, and what's the younger dude's name? Koyu or Kayu? They're alright in Suikoden 2. I have no real love for them, but I don't dislike them. As I said, they showed up in Suikoden Volume 1 and they protected Millet Village from the bandits. So I'm going to put them in the C tier. Koyu, Lowen, and Gijimu. And since I'm talking about Millet Village, I guess that also brings me to Camus and Miklatov, as they were also in Millet Village in Suikoden Volume 1, protecting it from the bandits. I love them both. They stood up to Gerudo, defied his orders, and renounced their oath because it was the right thing to do. While I normally do prefer the more calm and composed of the knight duos, you'd think I'd prefer Camus over Miklatov, but for these two characters, the opposite is true. I actually prefer Miklatov's personality over Camus's. He openly showed frustration with everything that was happening, with Gerudo's decisions. He stood up to and outright defied Gerudo. I'm going to put him in the D tier. He cast aside his pride and his oath, shamed himself as a knight to do the right thing. While Camus, on the other hand, he was more tactful and covert about it up until the moment he renounced his oath. But in terms of combat, I prefer Camus over Miklatov by a big margin. So I'm going to put him in B tier. Actually, for Miklatov's personality, I'm going to put him in the A tier. So, like I said, normally I'd put the more calm and composed of the two knights in the higher tier, but for Miklatov and Camus, the reverse is true. Now, since I done Camus and Miklatov, I gotta rank Gerudo. What a despicable piece of garbage. There's a 4-letter word beginning with C and ending in T that I'd use to describe him. He's arrogant, he's selfish, he's callous, he's just despicable in every way. He abandoned his allies mid-battle and let their city fall. He insults you at every opportunity. He stood by and watched all of the refugees from Muse get butchered in front of his very eyes. Then he cowardly sells out to the Highland Kingdom to save his own position. He's just an absolute piece of garbage. And look at him. I refuse to believe this guy is 37 years old. There is just no way he's 37. When I played this game, I thought he was in his mid-60s or something, but no, apparently he's 37. But I suppose that's JRPGs for you. Once a character turns 30, they're basically on life support. I know I'm kind of hovering over garbage, and everything I've said about him, he is a despicable piece of garbage, but I'm going to put him in the B tier. He's a truly despicable character, but he plays his role well and makes you hate him. And I suppose to circle back to Millet Village, I may as well finish that part off, and I am going to rank Gilbert. In Suikoden 2, he's alright. He's a mercenary from Zexen. He was working for Highland, but he swapped sides. And then he basically does nothing for the rest of the game, but he does lead a unit in war. He showed up in Suikoden Volume 2, where he helped protect Millet Village from the bandits, but he showed up towards the end of the fight. I am going to put Gilbert in the C tier. Next up, we have for duos and package deals, Kinnison and Shiro. I like them both. Shiro is a good buy. I'll put him in the A tier. I'll put them both in the A tier, actually. So Shiro into the A tier, and Kinnison, where are you, Kinnison? Kinnison, you can also go into the A tier. They miss out on S tier because, unlike Ida, they're not hot redheaded women. Other package deals, we have, I suppose, Gengen and Gabacha. They're both adorable, but I don't really care for Gabacha as a character. I'm going to put him in the... I'll put him in the D tier. And Captain Gengen himself, he can go into the B tier. Not much to say about them, to be honest. Who else do we have? We've got Alex and Hilda, I suppose. They're alright. Decent characters. Nice couple. Nice family. I'll put them in the C tier. Not much to say about either of them. And as family duos, we got Sai and Tomo. They're alright. Nothing special. I like them both, but I don't really love either of them, so I'm going to put them both in the C tier. Another package deal, I suppose, Millie and Bonaparte. I like Millie a lot. She's a fun character. I like her combat ability, despite her stats being awful. Her magic is terrible, but she's got great affinity with runes. Bonaparte, on the other hand, he's alright. I don't really get it. I don't see why she thinks it's so cute. It's turned on her a couple of times, apparently. She has a habit of poking him in the eye and agitating him. She thinks it's cute. Bonaparte obviously doesn't. I'm going to put Bonaparte in the D tier, and Millie I'm going to put in the C tier. Longchan Chan and Wakaba, I suppose they're a package deal. I love Wakaba. She is awesome. She has a lot of screen time in the alternate route of Chapter 3 in Suikoden Volume 1. Longchan Chan is funny, but aside from the humor of his recruitment scene, I'm not too keen on him. Wakaba I'm going to put in the A tier, and Longchan Chan I'm going to put in the C tier. We also have Freed and Sana, sorry, not Sana, Yoshino. Sana is their daughter from 3. I don't really care for either of them, to be honest. I'm going to put Freed in the D tier, and I'm going to put Yoshino in the E tier. I'm going to rank them both very lowly. Like I said, I don't really care for either of them. They both suck in combat. In fact, I think they might actually both be in the absolute bottom tier of trash characters in terms of combat. Freed, unlike Yoshino, actually does have some story though. He's fiercely loyal to South Window and Grandmere. Got some important moments in the story. I just don't care for him, while Yoshino doesn't do anything. She just wants to be by her husband's side, so they can stay in the D and E tier. Lily and Gustav, I suppose, are going to be a package deal. I'm going to put them both in the C tier. Lily's adorable. She doesn't have much to do. She was involved in the Necklord story, and that did definitely leave her emotionally scarred. And Gustav's an okay dude. Sure, he didn't want to help in the war initially because he was focused on the well-being of his own people, but he wasn't Gerudo about it. Actually, I'm thinking, do I put Gustav... No, I'm going to keep him where he is, because at the end of the game he refuses to join the Dunan Republic. He declares independence and forms his own country, which I suppose I kind of get. Tinto is out of the way, but no, I'll keep him in the C tier. Now I'll do another package deal. Will be Ridley and Boris. This one might be a tad controversial, but I'm going to put Ridley in the C tier. He's a great character, but his personality is a bit, he's, the way he treats Fitcher is It's kind of horrible, let's be honest. He's strict to a fault. I'm not rating him low, but I'm not going to rate him as high as other people would. I'm putting him in the C tier. Boris, on the other hand, I'm going to put Boris in the B tier. I do like Boris more than Ridley, but I'll be honest, I've only ever recruited Boris once because I don't like doing what you have to do. So, like I said, I've only recruited Boris once because of that, but I do like his character more than Ridley. Another package deal, I suppose. Tudan Huan? Much like Lucan, there isn't really much to say. You know, he's a doctor, he fulfills his role, he does his job just fine. I'm going to put him in the C tier. Tuda, on the other hand, I'm going to put him in the D tier. You know, he's fine, he's a nice kid, but he doesn't really do anything. Who now? Some quickfire ones. Grandmere, I'm going to put Grandmere in the C tier. He's a nice guy. I think he would have been a fantastic mayor in times of peace, but he was a complete coward in times of war. If I'm doing the mayors, I'll do Mackay. He's a bit gullible, but his heart is in the right place. I'll go C tier. With the mayors, we'll also do Annabelle. I'm going to put Annabelle in the D tier. I rate her higher than the other mayors. She's Victor's dream gal. I always liked her. I think she would have made a hell of a president of the Dunan Republic if she had survived to the end of the game. I think she was just dealt a very bad hand, that she had to navigate such a disunited political minefield that was the city-states. She had to try and keep the peace and keep them all from squabbling and fighting with one another. So she was dealt a very bad hand. Jude, you know, he's alright. He sculpts the guardian deity for your castle, something that truthfully I rarely do. I'm going to put him in the C tier. Hans, I'm going to put him in the C tier. I've nothing really to say about him. He's the armorer. He's an alright guy. Who else do we have? Simone. He's alright. I don't like him as much as Vincent, by the way. Initially, when I played the game, the first few playthroughs, I loved him as much as Vincent, but as time has gone on, I just don't rate him as highly as Vincent. I'm going to put him in the C tier. They do have a fun Unite attack together, but something about him, I don't know, I just don't like him as much as Vincent. Amelia. Where to put Amelia? She's that sexy librarian teacher. You know, don't act like you haven't had that fantasy. I love the library in the games. It's a nice way to give us more lore about the worlds, so I always have a soft spot for the librarians. It helps that she's hot as hell. Plus, she helped out with the defense of Greenhill during Suikoden. I'm going to put her in the A tier. Next, Marlowe. He's a decent guy. I'm going to put Marlowe in the C tier. I like him, but he doesn't really do much. He opens a library after the war and teaches kids, so that's nice of him. Fits with his character. Shiro will be another quick one. I'm going to put him in the D tier. Jinchurarine kind of sucks in Suikoden 2, to be honest. I barely played the game in Suikoden 2, and I'm pretty sure most of you barely played it as well, because it's just not as fun as Suikoden 1. Hannah is another quick one. I'm going to put Hannah in the A tier. Hear me out, muscle mommy. Yeah, she's she's a good character though, let's be honest. She's a good character. Hoi, this might be controversial. I don't care for him. I never liked him. Never did. Probably never will. I'm going to put him in the E tier. He did show up in Suikoden Volume 1. I believe it was in the alternate route of Chapter 3. He stole Ida's horse and sold it to Nash. I'm going to put him in the E tier. I just don't like him. Fitcher I'm going to put in the C tier. I think Two River would have fallen without him, and he played a decent role in Greenhill, so he's a decent character. Barbara is another quick one. She's going in C tier. She misses out on the B tier. I think I ranked Rock in the B tier in Suikoden 1, but Barbara is going C tier because she has limited storage space. Another quick one would be Rora. She's a friend of Jean's. We know next to nothing about her. Horrible sense of direction. I don't really care about her, to be honest. I'm putting her in the D tier. Another quick one, I suppose, Hauser. He's a decent general, but I think he's a bit of an idiot for his strict beliefs and blindly following Jess. You know, he was aware of how incompetent Jess was, but because Jess was next in line to be mayor, he decided to follow Jess instead of joining the new state army. And I think Hauser is a bit of an idiot for his blind refusal to stray from the rules. So I'm going to put Hauser in the D tier. Choco and Sid, I think I can get them out of the way together. The wingers are alright. You know, Choco, he's a bit of a brat, but at the same time, he's kind of funny and he does mean well overall. Sid, on the other hand, I find him to be quite annoying, so I'm going to put Sid in the D tier and Choco in the C tier. Who else? Not many to go. Hayo. I'll do Hayo. For the cooking minigame alone, he's going in the A tier. Plus, his story is fun, and I'm not factoring this part into his ranking, but he's got a fun connection to a character or characters from Suikoden 5. So Hayo goes in A tier. Plus, I think he's fun in combat, smacking people with the frying pan, which I think is probably a bit of a contradiction because, or a bit hypocritical or a contradiction or something, because I believe I ranked Antonio and Lester very, very low in the D tier. But actually, no, that's not an issue because it wasn't because of their fighting ability. It's just that I didn't like their characters. So no, yeah, Hayo was fine in the A tier. I'll rank Anita. She's a good character. She's playful. She's fairly laid back. And when Nanami was, let's just say, she was taken out of commission, Anita, she showed a real compassionate side. She showed a different side to her personality. She was more gentle in how she spoke to Rio. Supposedly she has a reputation for her beauty. I don't see it. I think Valeria is way hotter. I'm going to put Anita in the B tier. Next up, Bob. I'll rank Bob. I really like Bob. He's got a sad backstory. I think he's got a really sad and tragic backstory. He's a werewolf from the grasslands and Windy destroyed his village. He might be the only survivor or one of the few survivors. We don't know for sure. He kind of wandered a bit when his village was destroyed, and pretty much everywhere he went he faced discrimination for being a werewolf, which I think is why he's so reluctant to join and help out. I'm going to put Bob in the A tier. I think he's a great character. I'll rank Ulan. She is, let's be honest, another hot redhead, and I think you all know where she's going. She can go, I won't put her in the S tier, I'll put her in the A tier. She's a badass. She shows up in Suikoden. Is it Suikoden Volume 2, where she's with Nash and Sheena? I believe Futch and Humphrey. Yeah, she's in Chapter 3 with Nash, Sheena, Futch and Humphrey. She basically goes toe-to-toe with a dragon and fights the dragon with her fists. She is a badass. I'm putting her in the A tier. Who else? Shin. He's alright. I'm gonna put him in the C tier. You know, he's alright. I like how loyal he is to Teresa, but I never had any love for his character. So he's going in the C tier. Teresa, on the other hand, I'll be honest, on my very first playthrough, I didn't like her. I think it was because of the constant back and forth running you had to do through the Green Hill Forest, and that made me resent her. And it didn't really have much to do with her. It was just I was so annoyed by having to constantly run back and forth, so I just hated her by proxy, I suppose. But from my second playthrough onwards, I really, really loved her. She's a great character. She's got a great story. She ends up becoming the president of the Dun Republic, forges peace with the Koreans. I think she's a fantastic character, and I'm going to put her in the A tier. And talking of the Koreans, we got to rank Lucia. I am going to put her straight into the S tier. Amazing character. She's got a really sympathetic backstory. You can really feel for her, and you can really understand her motivations. And I kind of get the feeling she was being taken advantage of by Joey and the Highland Kingdom, kind of manipulating her into joining the war to aid them. Another quick and easy one, Sasarai. He's nothing special in Suikoden 2. I'm going to put him in the C tier. Quick and easy, Ricky Maru. He's going in the B tier. I really like his character. I like his character in combat, but his story, not a whole lot going on there. Just a character on a mysterious quest for revenge. You know, there's not a whole lot going on there. Another quick and easy character, Yuzu. I'm going to put Yuzu in the B tier. She loves animals. She's adorable. She's got a sad story. You know, she's just a little kid that got separated from her family during the war. She's a good character. I'm gonna put her in the B tier there. Next up, Zamza. I'll rank Zamza. He is, let's be honest, he's very punchable because of his arrogant personality, but I've always liked him. I think he's really fun in combat, and if you give him a fire sealing rune, he's an absolute beast in combat. So I'm kind of torn here. Do I go A or B? I'll put him in B. So I think B is fair for Zamza. Next, quick and easy, I suppose Tony. I'm going to put him in the D tier. You know, he's just a farmer. Not much going on. He has a little scene in Vicky's chapter in Suikoden Volume 2 where you get to see his daughter in the future. But again, not a whole lot going on. He's just a simple farmer. Putting him in the D tier. Gadget. He's pretty cool. I like him. I'll put him in the B tier along with Meg. I think it's fair to keep them together. I like Gadget. Next up, Nina. I'll rank Nina. She's annoying, but she's annoying in a funny way. And she really gets on Flick's nerves, and that's always a bonus for me. So I'm going to put Nina in the C tier. Next up, I'll rank Bado next. So basically any character with a love for animals is going to be rated highly by me. I've always loved his character, and I think he's got a really fun fighting style. So I'm going to put him in the B tier. Who left? Khan. I'll put Khan in the C tier. You know, he's alright, nothing to say. He's an okay character. Well, I do see a package deal here. We can get a 2 for 1 done here. Kiba and Klaus. Both awesome characters. Kiba's a badass and Klaus is a fantastic strategist. I'm going to put them both in the A tier. I suppose another Highland general then would be Solon G. I always liked his character. He's arrogant. He's full of pride, and that seems to stem from his noble heritage. He seems to look down on people. He feels like he's got something to prove, though, because I don't know if it's because of his heritage or if it's because of his age, but he feels like he's got something to prove. And because of his arrogance and his pride, that leads him to being reckless, and he's always trying to win as swiftly as possible, which is actually his downfall. I wish we got to see more of him in Suikoden 2, but the ending of his story really gave a lot more depth to Luca's character. I'm going to put Solange in the A tier. I really like his character. Which I suppose brings me to Luca Blight. What can I say about Luca Blight? Well, what can anyone say about Luca Blight? He is one of the greatest villains of all time. I'm going to put him in the S tier because, let's be honest, that's where he belongs. He is an absolute monster with one of the most tragic backstories in the game. Having to experience what he did, witness what he did, and seeing his father flee in cowardice, you can almost relate, or at the very least, you can completely understand why he is the way he is. He is an incredible villain, and S tier is where he belongs. So I suppose that brings me to Gary's blight to his father. This is a bit of a tricky one. You know, he doesn't really have much screen time in the game, so it's hard to rank him properly. I think he would have been a great king in times of peace. You know, he did try for peace with the city-states, but it was the military and the hardliners in Highland that wanted war, and I feel like they completely undermined his reign. If there was no strife, no conflict between the two nations, I think he would have been a fantastic king. But, as I said when I was discussing Luca, he was a complete coward. When he and his family were visiting Muse during times of peace after they signed a peace agreement, his caravan was attacked by what appeared to be bandits, but essentially they were Muse soldiers disguised as bandits. He fled, and he left his wife and son behind to be captured. And when they were captured, let's just say that his wife was taken by those supposed bandits, and Luca saw it all happen in front of his very eyes, leaving him traumatized. And that's why Luca hates his dad. You know, I'm going to put him in B tier for his story. I think he's got a good story. And he's an interesting character. So he's going in the B tier. So I actually had to, if you see down at the bottom, Gerudo, choose files. I had to upload a picture of Gerudo myself because just like the Suikoden 1 video where Kazum wasn't included on the list for some reason, Gerudo was not on the list here, so I had to upload his picture myself. And since I done Luca and the Garys, I guess I'll rank Gilia next. I'm gonna put Gilia in the A tier. I think she's a fantastic character. She's Luca's half-sister. So I say half-sister because Gary's blight is not Gilia's father. The bandit attack on Gary's caravan, where his wife was taken by the bandits, we'll say, is what resulted in her mother's pregnancy and the birth of Gilia. She tried her best to placate Luca and his bloodlust, but you know, she could only do so much. I think it was only her resemblance to her mother that stopped Luca from hurting her or killing her. And then, of course, she was used as a pawn by Joey, who plotted the deaths of her family, killed her father, killed her brother, and he used her as a pawn so he could marry her, take the throne. And despite all that, she still loved him. I really like Gilia as a character. I think she's got a great story. And I suppose that brings me to Joey. Oh boy, Joey. He is a great character, but I absolutely hate his character. Now, hear me out before I rank him. Well, I suppose I don't have to say hear me out. You know what? I'm going to rank him now and just show you. He's going in the S tier. He is an incredible character, but I do hate him. Kind of. So let me just explain. In Suikoden Volume 1, we actually see why he decided to betray you at Muse. When he was captured in the Highland camp, Luca actually threatened to have his family labeled as traitors if Joey didn't agree to help them. And you can imagine what happens to traitors under Luca's watch. So he admired Luca's power, and he was also threatened into helping. He did have a masterful plan of disposing of Ageris and Luca and becoming King of Highland, and even though he used Gilia as a pawn, he did seem to genuinely care for her. He seemed to also truly care for Ryo and Nanami, and he didn't want them to be harmed. He gave them several opportunities to walk away. And I wonder, would the land have been any different under Highland rule with Joey and Gilia on the throne compared to being united under the Dunnan Republic? I don't know. It could have been. And to anyone who wonders why they didn't just sign a peace agreement when he became king, which, you know, is something I've seen a lot of people discuss over the years. People always wondered, well, why not just sign the peace agreement and end the war? Well, as I said with Ageris, the hardliners in Highland and the military in Highland, the higher-ups, they wanted war. They wanted to conquer and destroy the city-states. And as far as everybody in Highland knew and still believed, the city-states started the war by ambushing and slaughtering a bunch of kids. You know, their country was out for blood. This war was only ending with the destruction of one nation. But here's what, well, I suppose all of that is kind of why I hate him. He betrayed his friends and all that. I understand his reasons for doing it, so I both love his character and hate his character. One thing that always did annoy me about his character, though, is his ending. So, you know, the best ending where Joey, Ryo and Nanami skip off into the sunset all happy and go off on fun adventures and live happily ever after. I thought that ending was a total cop-out. I think the bad ending gives him a perfect ending for his story. It would have been a tragic ending for his story, and I think it would have been perfect. Despite my love-hate relationship with him, he's an incredible character and he goes in the S tier. And if I rank Joey, you know what, right? Why not rank Pilika next? And oh boy, Pilika, where do I rank Pilika? She's adorable. Her story, it is tragic and heartbreaking, but before I put her in, let me just say this. When she reunites with Joey later in the game, what exactly did she mean when she said she was so lonely without Joey? She barely knew him. Let's be honest, she barely knew him. She barely spent any time with him. She spent more time with Ryo and Nanami. And when Ryo and Nanami weren't around, it was Leona and Rina that looked after her. She had Pete and Balgan to play with all of the time. She was surrounded by friends. When we went to Muse at the beginning of the game, who forked up the potch to buy the amulet? It sure as hell wasn't Joey. You know, she barely spent any time with him. Yet she had a stronger connection with him than anybody else. I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. Now, I don't know the psychology of it. Maybe because her parents nursed Joey back to health. She views Joey as the last connection to her parents, and by extension views him as family. I don't know. You know, as I said, she's adorable. Her backstory is tragic and heartbreaking. But But she sure as hell did get on my nerves when she said she was lonely without Joey. You know, talk about being ungrateful. But she's a great character, plays her role perfectly. I'm putting her in the S tier. Ryo and Nanami next. I'm going to put them both in the S tier. What's not to love? Incredible characters, both of them. Yeah, we're getting towards the end here. Han Cunningham, I'm going to put him in the A tier. He's an awesome character. The only negative thing I really have to say about him is that I was disappointed we didn't get to see more of him, which is a real shame. I'll rank Karen next. Karen, what to say about Karen? I'll put her in the B tier. I think she's fun in combat. You know, she sucks in combat, but she's fun in combat. She's shy, she's cute. She was taught how to dance by Mina from Suikoden 1. So I think B tier is fair for Karen. Leona, I'm going to put Leona in B tier. She's hot, she's cool. What's not to love? George. I'll rank George next. He is awesome. What is not to love about George? He is a one-man wrecking crew. I mean, you can win basically every war battle just with George. Just throw in a bunch of characters that give him extra critical attacks and he will destroy everybody on the battlefield. If you actually go the alternate route, the bad route in Tinto, where you flee, he's got an extra scene there with Ryu and he gets to show some more of his personality, and he even showed up in Suikoden Volume 1 where he helped Nash attack a Green Hill camp. No, he showed up in Green Hill in Suikoden Volume 1 where he helped Nash attack a Highland camp. And he was also one of Barbarossa's generals during the War of Succession. He's a badass and he is going in the A tier. Next up, Shu. What can be said about him? He is probably the best strategist in the entire series. He makes you feel like you're winning the unwinnable. So he's an incredible strategist, incredible character. He's going in the S tier. Next up, I'll rank Paul next. He's a nice guy, isn't around much, doesn't do much. We don't get to see enough of him. He's going in the C tier. Mazus. I'll put Mazus in... I don't know where I'll put him. He's a badass mage, but he's a bit of a reckless nutjob though. You know, his fire spells... He was casting fire spells around the castle, and if that spell didn't fail, he would have destroyed the castle and everyone in it. And in Suikoden Volume 1, he actually would have burned an entire forest to the ground had his spell not failed there as well. But he's a badass, but he's a bit of a nutjob. I'm going to put him in the B tier. Next up, Genshu. I'll rank Genshu next. He joins far too late into the game to really get much use out of him, but I think he's great in combat. I think he's fantastic in combat, and he's a lot of fun in combat. That's it. I don't know how I feel about his backstory though. He's a wandering swordsman, kind of obsessed with swords and victory. I think he kind of got caught up in the bloodlust of victory, and if I remember from his backstory, from what I read, his brother ended up challenging him to a duel while in disguise, and Genshu didn't realize it was his brother. And after he won, he kind of realized what he had started to become, and he didn't really like what he had become, so he self-reflected. I'm kind of oversimplifying it because I don't really remember the backstory he has in too much detail, but I like his design. He's great in combat. He's fun in character. I'm going to put him in the A tier. Next. Well, I do have a controversial pick coming up. Or something that I think is controversial. But before I get to the controversial pick, I'm gonna place Sierra. What's not to love? You know, she's 800 years old. I don't know, is she the OG vampire? She created the Blue Moon Village so that vampires could, live in peace without needing to feed on humans until that scumbag Necklord stole the rune, which then caused a lot of the vampires to either decide between, well, do I want to starve and die, or do I want to go out and feed on humans and survive? And of course, Sierra felt responsible for all of that because she's the one who created the vampires. She took that burden on her shoulders, so she hunted all of those vampires down. She's got a lot of story, and some of that story is actually shown in Suikoden Volume 1. I'm going to put her in the A tier. So if you haven't played or watched Suikoden Volume 1, the entire first chapter, which is very lengthy, actually heavily revolves around Sierra. It's a great story, go check it out. She's a wonderful character. Now, as I said, a controversial pick. Killy. I know a lot of people rate him very, very highly. A lot of people love his character. And I think the only reason they love his character is because of his combat ability. But I do not like him at all. He might be broken and ridiculously overpowered in combat, but he's a total insufferable asshole, and I do not like him at all. In fact, the only thing keeping him out of the A tier, the only thing keeping him out of the E tier is his combat ability. So I'm going to put Killy in the D tier because I genuinely do not like him as a character. So there you have it. There's my Suikoden 2 ranking video. Again, this is a personal favorites ranking. This is not determined by ability, solely by ability in battle. It's a factor of everything. Combat ability, fun in combat, personality, design, story. So it's everything factored into my decisions, and it's just a list of my personal favorites. You don't have to agree. You can disagree if you like. As you can see, there's not really as many in the lower tiers in this video compared to this Suikoden 1 video. In the Suikoden 1 video, there was a lot more people in the D and E tiers, and there wasn't as many people in the S, A, and B tiers. So I think it just goes to show the quality of the cast in Suikoden 2. It has one of the best casts of characters in any gaming franchise. So that's it for the Suikoden 2 ranking list. Let me know what you guys think. How would you rank the characters? Who are your favorites and least favorites? What do you agree or disagree about my list? Where would you rank the characters? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.